afternoon. Thank you to Dr. Evans for inviting me to discuss some perspectives and information on Dr. W.E.B. Du Bois. And I must first share that I am definitely not a scholar on Du Bois. I'm an archivist, a lover of history, and someone who appreciates others who recognize the importance of preserving history and historical records. In my discussion today, I will share what I think is Du Bois's apparent pride in documenting his history and preserving his legacy. I'll also share some information on historical records in my repository as well as others. So in discussing with Dr. Evans the importance of celebrating Du Bois and ensuring that students in the AUC learn more about his enduring scholarship, I told her how amazing it feels to know that we walk in the spaces in which he walked. As I was reading his autobiographies, I wondered if I could make claim to walking in some of his footsteps. First here in Atlanta as a student and now a professional. Also at Fisk, where I took my first professional job, and Asha as a grad. Also at Wilberforce, where that's my sister's alma mater, and my family frequented the campus very often, my father working there at different times. So analyzing Du Bois through my lens proved fascinating and slightly surreal given the places that we've both been and the beautiful way he described those locations. So what about the preservation of an important life? All of our lives are important, right? Sure. Du Bois's life and work, however, document his amazing sociological and philosophical mind, as well as document a perspective on activities, feelings, mentality, and consciousness of self of the American Negro in the early 1900s. His sociological studies also provide us with historical statistical data on the conditions of blacks in various areas of the country. Through his records, we can learn more about Du Bois, but also about blacks in the United States in the early 20th century. It's been noted that Du Bois conscientiously retained his incoming letters as well as copies of his outgoing letters. This is rare unless you have proactively considered your work. Imagine if you saved a copy of every note you sent to a friend. Well, we do that now. I suppose we have a sent folder in our mailboxes, in our inboxes. But not so in Du Bois's day. Although I'm saying it in a light manner, there is something special about Du Bois knowing the importance of his history. Do we not find it extremely special and unique that Du Bois wrote 3 autobiographies? In the autobiography of W.E.B. Du Bois, a soliloquy on viewing my life from the last decade of its first century, he writes, "This book then is the soliloquy of an old man on what he dreams his life has been, as he sees it slowly drifting away, and what he would like others to believe." Why does Du Bois believe it's so important for his legacy to be memorialized? Certainly we have his published texts, those which he probably felt strongest about, and we can study his philosophies and ideas. But recall he is scientific in his study of the human. Perhaps he believed it would be beneficial for us to know how he came to his beliefs through his own personal story. I was particularly intrigued by Du Bois's almost verbatim reiteration of his family story in the final autobiography, From the First, Darkwater. Though in the final autobiography, we certainly receive more details. I interpret this to mean that he continued to research his past for understanding of his life or the lives of those from which he descended. He often quotes his paternal grandfather's travel diary, which Dr. Evans might be interested in if you can find it, as a lover of such records. I was really excited to hear of that diary his grandfather would have composed in 1861 when he traveled to Haiti. Perhaps it was in his genius to document his story. Why start so early at age 50 with Darkwater? In the final autobiography, he says, "In all of my plans and dreaming, I do not remember ever thinking of a long life. The people of my family on both sides usually reach the 70s, but I know none of 90, and my immediate parents died in their 50s. He goes on to say, "I was not thinking of my immediate death, but I was sure that by far the largest part of my life had passed." So what do we have today? The large large bulk, of Du Bois's collection resides near his birthplace at the University of Massachusetts Amherst. The collection has been accessible for some time, especially due to its availability on one of the most stable mediums for preservation, microfilm. The university purchased Du Bois's collection from his second wife, Shirley Graham Du Bois, in 1973. Later, additional materials Mrs. Du Bois held close to her in Africa and other places were transferred to the university in 1979, 2 years after her death. Over 350 boxes of materials document Du Bois's brilliant mind and works. There are smaller collections found at institutions such as Fisk University, Yale University, and the New York Public Library. The Du Bois collection at University of Massachusetts Amherst is being digitized, and perhaps we'll hear more about it at the Du Bois Conference in the spring. Currently, there are many digital exhibits and special sites devoted to sharing Du Bois's story through materials and resources found in his collection. They are accessible through the University of Massachusetts Amherst Special Collections, and you can look at those online. Beautiful photographs, including some from our collection here in the Atlanta University Center. So what about our collections here? I'm proud to share that we have 2 boxes of substantial biographical files of information on Du Bois. There are many newspaper clippings documenting writings about Du Bois or ephemera related to various activities in which he engaged. Certainly Phylon, certainly the Atlanta University publications. Additionally, documentation about Du Bois's career as a 2-time professor at Atlanta University is contained in several collections. Notably, the Atlanta University Presidential Records, among papers in the Horace Bumstead, Edward Ware, John Hope, and Rufus Clement series. Due to his work and studies throughout the city of Atlanta when he was a resident, correspondence can also be found within the Atlanta Urban League papers and the Clarence A. Bacot papers. More information about his family's life, notably his daughter, who was married to County Cullen for a brief time, can be found in the County Cullen Harold Jackman Memorial Collection in our archives as well. Another worthy collection is the George A. Towns collection in our repository. Towns was a very active alumnus of Atlanta University, and today I want to share a piece of a letter that is in his collection. Many of you may know that Du Bois' second time teaching at Atlanta University was cut short with a forced retirement voted on by the trustees of the university to go into effect on June 30th, 1944. A letter was written to the trustees of Atlanta University on April 15th, 1944, from a special committee of the Atlanta University class of 1907, formed by Austin T. Walden, and they drafted a statement which was adopted by the Alumni Association to protest the forced retirement of Du Bois. Calling Du Bois the most far-sighted spokesman in the world for the rights of people of color in this universe, the letter of support states, "More than any other among the 12 millions of us, Dr. Du Bois symbolizes and typifies the aspirations and capabilities of the race. He has been the flaming evangel in a day when it was popular to remain silent or equivocate relative to the fundamental rights of his people." The letter continues, "Dr. Du Bois's 25 years of service to Atlanta University brought fame, luster, and renown to our alma mater. The Atlanta University studies, child of his brain, made Atlanta favorably known all over the civilized world. His present work at the university is such that nobody on the faculty, or elsewhere for that matter, can take his place. Undoubtedly, if he is permitted to remain in the atmosphere wherein was incubated and generated the dreams, ideas, and ideals whose fruition has immeasurably blessed mankind and given fortitude to millions of the submerged peoples of our world, he will be able to leave on the printed page an unerring guide and a perpetual inspiration for our children yet to be born." The last paragraph of the letter strongly states, "Therefore, as alumni and former students of Atlanta University, We most respectfully petition and implore its trustees not to take any action which would deprive Atlanta University and the Negro people of the yet incomplete and unfinished contribution which Dr. Du Bois is still capable of bringing to fruition for the benefit of this and succeeding generations. What deference, what admiration these former students had for their professor after all those years. We can be thankful that Du Bois knew how important his stories, ideas, and life would be for future generations to study. That he was forthright and farsighted enough to not only preserve his correspondence, writings, photographs, and other materials, but also wrote 3 different autobiographies to share with us his life in different stages and his thoughts on his reason for existence. Truly does just what those men and women declared: benefit succeeding generations with perpetual inspiration for our children yet to be born. Thus the importance of his archives.